If you have read through chapters 1 to 4 of the primer, you have probably completed or at least started to study the first 3 steps of the transition back to campus planning process that we are recommending. So let us just quickly recall. Step 1, pause to reflect on your experience as an educator during the past 2 years and think about the lessons that you have learned about effective teaching, right? Step 2, identify your school's non-negotiable underlying parameters that will guide and govern the decisions that you make regarding the reopening of your campus, right? Step 3, explore the different learning delivery approaches and their implications for curriculum and pedagogy, also for their implications on how the space in your school will be used, how the staff in your school will be used, and so on, right? So by now, you have gathered much of the significant background data that you will need for you to be able to start coming up with a more definite transition back to campus plan. Step 4 of the process involves consulting the different stakeholders involved before you finalize your plan. This is a very important step, and you cannot take a shortcut and just skip this step. Set a timetable for this process. Different stakeholders should be consulted and point out to them that due to the many constraints and because of the complexity of this move back to campus, it'll be difficult to come up with an ideal plan that will please all stakeholders, but that you would like to hear all their views. And to the best of your ability, you will address their concerns, all right? This is also important to clarify that so that they don't think that you consulted them and then you just didn't follow their suggestions. So you need to point out to them from the very beginning that we will not be able to follow all suggestions, but having heard your views, we will make the best decision that we can for the majority, all right? The 5th and last step is to draw up the final plan. This is the time to finalize decisions, and this is the time to start thinking about the detailed logistics that you will need as you start implementing your plan. Some examples of other considerations and decision points that have to be thought through are staffing and workloads. Right? So you will need to answer questions like, who will watch the playground or field when the children are playing there during recess or lunch? This is important because of the pandemic, right? You don't want students throwing away their masks, sharing food, or things like that. So somebody needs to watch the students. Now, do you need to hire extra staff also, for example, to wipe down tables and chairs in areas that are commonly used, like the library or the AV room? So these are questions that you need to start thinking about. Next, the physical space, and this includes how you will schedule recess time to prevent crowding in the canteen and in the playground. Another example of an area that needs to be looked at carefully is the school entrance where students are dropped off. This is usually an area where parents or yayas tend to give last-minute reminders or hugs to the children, and therefore some crowding may occur here. So how will you manage this? Another consideration is traffic management on campus. You want to prevent crowding. So there are certain areas where students tend to group together and crowd together. So how will you avoid this? How will you manage this? Transportation services to and from campus, if any. Are you responsible for ensuring that bus operators follow safety protocols? You will have to look into this. Clinic services. Maybe you need a separate clinic area for those that might have COVID symptoms so that they don't mix with the little child who has a wound in her finger or the little child who has a stomach ache, all right? Cleaning services, how often will you clean the bathrooms? Upskilling issues, and this is important for teachers and support academic staff to help, especially with the hyflex delivery modes. You need extra tech staff, maybe for library staff who could help with the younger children, who will bring the young children to the bathroom so that to make sure they are safe, they're following protocols because the teacher cannot leave the rest of the class. Things like this. Right? Chapter 5 of the primer will give you some very important reminders that will better ensure that you can come up with a realistic, feasible, sustainable, and agile plan. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to guide you through a possible process for coming up with your school's plan. Remember, there are trade-offs to be made. Your plan will probably need revision even while you're implementing it. So it doesn't mean that your plan failed. It means that you're being receptive to things as they start playing out, right? No plan is foolproof. And remember that you cannot please all stakeholders. But I hope that the process suggested in the primer will better ensure that you're able to make important decisions based on your school's unique context. So good luck to everyone in the transition to the new normal. Thank you.